Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Unknown Destination. I am Andrew, and as always, I'm joined by my beautiful co host, Justin. Um, went with a pretty positive story for this episode. We're going to be tackling some reasons to be cheerful just from everything that's been going on lately with the news and then 2020 as a whole. I did find an article here about is maybe after the first quarter of 2020. So it's a little bit older, but some positive things going on.
I think we need this right now. I think this will be a good break from everything that's been going on.
Yeah, that's kind of why I chose this one. So the article that we're going to be just kind of going over here, it's from the publication Wanderlust. So this is a great. I love this. The articles that they write, most of the stuff that they post is pretty uplifting. It's more about the destinations and less so much about the drama of the real world that's going on. Um, so I think we're just going to jump right into it. We'll go with the very first thing that most people have probably known about, or if you're into travel at all, you've probably seen it: the carbon emissions reducing by staggering amounts worldwide due to the lockdowns that 2020 ensued. Just for a little bit of, I want to give a little bit like a comparison here so that people really understand how much this means from just up through April. So these numbers are only from February to April, so 1 month. China reduced their emissions by so much that it basically equated to half of Britain's for the entire year.
Wow,
So all of
that's huge.
yeah, all of Britain's carbon emissions for the entire year, what they would produce for half of that entire year was gone because China had 1 month of lockdown. So that's honestly pretty huge environmentally, because China, as everybody knows, is pretty much the leader in carbon emissions, huge industry. Um, so I thought that was pretty important. So the clean air, that's why some of these things will kind of correlate to each other that I'm going to be bringing up here about kind of around the world.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. Obviously, carbon emissions are a big deal and they have long-term effects. So, if anything, we may be dying off, but the earth is doing better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost I know a lot of people have kind of brought that up of the earth cleansing itself of us. Which honestly this kind of shows that we don't necessarily need to be cleansed if we're just more responsible with how we do things. So I thought that was a really good thing to start off with. The next thing here, people have probably seen pictures of this as well. Venice, with the less pollution, it's the least popular or least polluted it's been since basically ever, since people have been really taking advantage of the straits there. The water is clearer than it ever has been. Um, Now I do want to make sure that people realize that they probably saw photos on Facebook or social media of dolphins returning to Venice. That those are not real. They were seen about 500 miles offshore, which is still huge, because of how much pollution there was in Venice. So still a really good thing. It's just didn't see any dolphins in the canals. Those are not I guess real photos, at least at that time. Um, so yeah, that honestly that's pretty huge too. Just the less pollution for these places that are super high traffic, like Venice.
Right on. Yeah, that's cool as well. I mean, it's kind of the same as the first thing in the sense of less pollution, but
Yeah, it's
it
kind of just bringing in what comes from less pollution around the world.
right. But it's a good thing, and there's no reason we can't keep that up if we just learn how to properly manage it.
Yeah, and yeah, I honestly think that even the next thing here is just India is obviously one of the most, if not most densely populated places in the world. So pollution there again, terrible. The views
Yeah.
there, I would say if when you're able to travel again and it's safe to travel, I would recommend India right now because they have some of the most beautiful sights that you can finally see, because of the less pollution that's been going on there. But once again, that's you're probably looking down into the future for that kind of trip with just how many people there are. You don't really want to be going there with a pandemic going
Yeah.
on.
I would say probably at least fall, if not next year.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing too is planning into your trips. I'd probably be looking like a year out if you're looking international, just to be on the safe side. You've got plenty of time to do your research, ask questions, that kind of thing, and we can always help with that. So the next thing, Australia has been given kind of a grace period to recover from those terrible bushfires that happened. The,
True.
a lot of people don't remember that because the pandemic was so short after that. That or it was like during kind of it was like the people don't remember how bad it was and people trying to get over there and help save the animals. So many pictures were all over the news of people and doing rescue for these animals because they're just running from the fires in any direction and it was just chaos. So Australia being able to recover without kind of the interference of tourism post bushfires is another huge thing. So I think that is really, really good for the country.
I think you can kind of apply that to abilities to do things like forestation and things in the States too, with
Hmm.
the wildfires we had here in California and Colorado, both normally heavily dense tourist areas, but they haven't had that issue. So they've been able to actually go in and do some things to maybe be able to help prevent these wildfires getting as out of control in the future.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the next kind of uplifting thing here is that there's still a lot of nature to be discovered. In Ecuador, they found a brand new species of
Oh,
orchid,
wow.
yeah,
Orchid. Yeah.
orchid, yeah. Which is they're actually this isn't the first article I've seen. This is the first one we're referencing, but I have seen other articles where people that are in kind of the science community are able to be out there kind of discovering brand new things that they haven't seen in a long time because of people being not out over over touristing the
Right.
they're kind of being able to go down those beaten paths, but no, they haven't been beaten the entire year, so a lot comes out in a year.
Awesome.
um the next thing is obviously kind of what I was talking about, over tourism. The world's busiest places are finally being able to take that long needed breath,
Yeah.
uh, the deep breath to recover. And the first thing that I think about is the coral reefs because of how devastated those were and destroyed. And if anybody's been following the Great Barrier Reef, I have been for years, with that dying basically because of over tourism. And you get, all it takes is a few people to really wreak some havoc on that if they're not educated into what the reef is. So that's great that those are getting time to recover naturally, and they are. We're seeing the reefs kind of coming back. So another really great things, or like Justin was saying with the deforestation, those over trampled forests are starting to come back, and hopefully this gives these destinations enough time to put some better rules and regulations in
Yeah.
place, to prevent this from happening again, because we don't know if we'll get a second chance this as the human race, or even you know I guess you can look at the pandemic as a blessing and a curse, depending on how you want to look at it. From a traveler's perspective, I think of it as a blessing, even though I haven't been able to travel, just because there are so many things that were being destroyed by us that have started to come back.
It's interesting. I think it's kind of like a big reset button for the entire world of, hey, take some time, you know, this is going to be hard, you're going to get through it though, and let everything around you kind of recover. But I also think, in the sense of being people who work in the travel industry, I think eventually the travel industry is going to come back bigger and better because people are realizing just how much they like to get out and see new things,
Yeah.
especially when you've been told, hey, you can't go anywhere. That makes you want to go somewhere 10 times as much. So I think it's going to be a great thing. Now, that may not be the same for corporate travel, but for like leisure travelers and people just getting out to see the world, I think it's going to be
Yeah, I think there'll be a
very
lot more
positive.
travelers. Yeah, I think it's gonna come back, and kind of like you said, it's gonna come back in full force and then some. Because like you said, that a lot of people don't want to be stuck at home, and
Yeah.
they never realized, even if you're an introvert, that you know thought that you're a homebody. When you can't go somewhere, it's different than being able to choose to stay
Right.
home.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot of people happier in the long run too.
I do
I
too.
Yeah, I think there's something very therapeutic about traveling, and there is definitely something stress relieving about seeing different parts of the world that you may not normally be able to get to experience the natural beauty. So I think it's going to be a positive thing overall.
Yeah, and I think that kind of this kind of leads into the next one here, that there's going to be kind of that sweet spot for travelers once the world is moving again. And I think just on point to that, think about how many places were over tourismed. It's if you're one of the people that are first getting back out there traveling, there's probably not going to be that many people there. And the reference that they use is Machu Picchu, which is a great example because that is the height of one of the places that is over tourism. That's, I mean, they, even the locals, don't really, aren't big fans of tourists. They
Right.
weren't, because it's just so over trampled, and people that are disrespectful to the location that they're at, because they think that they're above everything. A lot of that stuff's been going on, so I think that there's going to be that period of time where it's going to be fantastic to be traveling, just on many accounts, which it leads me to the next one, that the locals are going to be happy to have you back.
Yeah,
You're going to be seeing smiling faces again, that people are moving around, and I think, like Justin's saying, a lot of people are going to be happier. I think it's really going to be a great thing once it gets off the ground again. People are going to be happy to see other cultures and other races, and just see somebody besides their neighbors or their family. I think that's the big thing.
I'd rather see other people than my neighbors.
I mean, me too. That's, I
Yeah,
know. I think a lot of people would, and especially just the culture differences. I think a lot of people during this lockdown have been shut in to their whatever their own culture is, and
it's true.
getting back out there is going to be huge. And the people are going to love you for traveling because you're bringing business back to their country.
Yeah.
So
And even the people have been shut in, kind of stuck to their own culture. And on top of that, even the news, most people have only heard the majority of the news has been about their country because there's so much that happening to go around. So it's going to be such a positive experience for everybody, especially those people that maybe haven't traveled before. I think they're really going to get to have their eyes open and experience the world in a way they've never been able to.
yeah, and I honestly, even to go a little bit further on that, if you haven't traveled internationally before, I would say start planning something for maybe next year, or like next, not this summer, but maybe next summer. Just plan something to get out there while everything is still kind of fresh and new, and especially if you haven't traveled, because you're going to see the world in a completely different light when you get back. A lot of people get really stressed out when they're traveling, or even getting ready to travel. It's so worth it, though. I am a big worrier when it comes to international travel, of something going wrong and it messing up my plans, but it's honestly, it is kind of about the journey, because it makes it so much better when you finally get there and you get settled in, and uh, thinking about like maybe the northern lights or something, this some big thing that you've always wanted to see. I would definitely take advantage of that now, and start planning.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if you are somebody who may not have the budget to travel internationally, even if it's just domestic, do it. There's so many things even here within the states that you may think you know what it's like, but you won't until you actually see it. You don't know what it's like to be in the Rocky Mountains until you're actually in the Rocky Mountains. You may think you know, but trust me, you don't know.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people who don't think you do have the budget for it, you probably do. Honestly, there's so many great tools that you can use, for helping you budget for a trip. I saw one last week that I was just messing around with, and you could put in what you make and what your bills are, and what you like, basically, if you have any disposable income, how to stretch that as far as possible. And if you're looking at a year and a half out, even if you're just saving a little bit a month, you can still get to the point where you can take, kind of almost any trip. It's not going to be, a high end. You're not going on a jungle safari in Africa that's a guided tour for 2 weeks, but you can still get out there and do stuff. I think I had brought this up on one of the other episodes, but when I went to Peru, our round trip flights were less than $400 a person.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, and same thing with Iceland. When I went to Iceland, I found flights, I think, for round trip for me, my ex-wife, and our daughter for I think it was definitely under $800 total for the three of us for round trip, no stops.
Not bad.
So yeah, just keep that in mind. Another, I want to jump into the next thing here that people probably didn't really take advantage of or think about too much, but virtual tours. Um, this is actually love that 2020 brought this out because there are a lot of people who can't travel due to physical illnesses or the physical capabilities uh, that aren't able to see these things. And these tours are so cool because from the a couple that I've seen, it's like you're still there. They're still giving the tour. You're not watching a video. It's still interactive. You still ask questions. So I think that is something that, yeah, or it's a really good thing to do if you're interested in going somewhere but you're not quite sure. Take a
Yeah.
virtual tour of it and see if it's something that you might be interested in.
In addition to that, there's a lot of YouTubers that you can watch that go all kinds of places, and that's a good way to do some research to see where you may want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many resources now to find out where you want to
So many.
go, and it's of course always going to be different in person when you go because I had seen pictures of Iceland and Peru, but when you're there, it's a totally different story. So I would
Yeah.
say start with somewhere that you're interested in and just do it. That's the only way you're gonna really experience it.
Right on.
The next thing that I had here from this that I want to bring up is kind of what the Netherlands did, because Netherlands very well known for their flowers, the flower industry. That's, I mean, like rows and rows and rows of tulips. That's kind of what you think of when you think the Netherlands. What happened this past year was that over 1,000 Dutch companies bought more than 1 million flowers in the Netherlands, and they were giving them out for free to brighten up people's days.
Awesome.
So just another kind of uplifting um, thing that the country did, or these companies did. I shouldn't say the country because there's 1,000 Dutch companies that did this, but it was kind of a way to save the flower industry as well as brighten people's day for no reason. Just it makes me think of people with like a flower cart or something in like a Disney movie that
Yeah.
they're just handing you a flower as you walk by. That's what I would love to envision there. And
Right on.
this was kind of what resulted in this was the hospitals receiving just vases upon vases of tulips, and just like I just joy, I guess, that was brought from them.
Yeah, that I mean, anytime somebody gives you anything, and it doesn't matter what it is. Obviously, flowers are beautiful and candy's nice, but like it always feels good to get something and it always feels good to give something. So
Yeah,
either way, you win.
yeah, which is why I guess a lot of people have that love language of the gifts, because it does feel good when you brighten somebody's day with something so simple. It's
Yeah.
like why the stereotype of women love flowers. It's like a man is brings home some flowers, and it makes the whole day better.
It's not the flowers.
It's not, it's the thought that counts.
It sounds cliche as heck, but it's actually true.
That's all right. I'm gonna be super uplifting and corny in this one
Okay.
because I feel like everybody kind of needs it at this point. The last thing that I want to go over is just kind of what we've touched on is you can plan future travels now. And that's
Yeah.
really what we mean by that is a lot of these companies that normally are only allowing maybe 6 months to a year out of getting something kind of squared away for a trip, they're offering way further out because of the uncertainty. And these companies are wanting the cash flow. So that is something that you can also do is start planning your trips now for a year and a half, 2 years out. A lot of people do that. That's not an uncommon thing in the travel world, is to plan a big trip for 2 years from now.
And if you have the money now and you're able to get a reservation now, it's the time to do it. Like Andrew said, a lot of these airlines don't have restrictions on changes and things on their tickets, and
Hmm.
fares are at an all-time low because these airlines need cash at this point.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and
you can
even
get
if
them
you're
really cheap.
Yeah, even if you're going through a tour company, a lot of those will allow you to pay in like installments, like just
Yeah.
like a monthly. So by the time you take your trip, it's completely paid off. I know a few people that have taken advantage of these kind of things, and they said you know, it lowered their stress so much by doing this because by the time it's time to take their trip, everything's already paid for, and they don't have any debt from doing so. So kind of what I was talking about budgeting before, maybe you could only put in, you know, 20 to $100 a month or something to towards your trip, but maybe that's enough for the trip that you want to take. That's it's all about looking at what you can do with what you have available. So
Yeah.
I think it's a really good time to start planning trips. I know I've already started planning many trips in the future here, which my earliest international will probably not be until 2021 or 2022. She's
22. Yeah.
22 now, but that's a long time for me who usually likes to travel internationally at least once a year. But just with everything that's been going on, it's very risky to do that at this point until the vaccine is more widely available. So,
Yeah, so I think these are all really positive things, and I think all this entire podcast is, or this entire video, whatever you want to call it, has been kind of inspirational. But I don't know if we have quite enough inspiration yet. Do you have a little more for
I might
us?
have, I might have a little more just to sign us off here. In a world where a single quote can inspire and drive the most stubborn of mules, Unknown Destination is here to deliver. And our quote is, "It is not down in any map. True places never are." And this kind of ties into previous quotes that that I've used here. And I'm just take away from this that to find yourself, you really need to put yourself out there, and you're not it like it's not on any map. You're not going to find it by going from point A to point B. There's going to be, you know, A1 and A2 and
Yeah,
A75 in between A and B, and you never know when you're gonna find that true place. So
right on. I agree with that. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for being the one to kind of come up with the information on this. If y'all haven't seen, I'm not sure what order these are getting uploaded in, but I tried to be inspirational and we ended up talking about death.
yeah,
So
it wasn't very inspirational.
it wasn't, but this was. So I want to thank you guys for listening today or watching this video. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for us, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you ever want to leave us a message, you can do so on our Anchor page. That link is in the description down below. The article that Andrew was referencing throughout this, I will also have linked in the description down below. But other than that, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we hope to see you next time.
Have a good one.
I don't wanna be here. Take me